We'll get into the Nets first because it seems like there's so much going on with this team and this organization, and you haven't heard from Kyrie Irving in about a week. That's usually good when you don't hear from Kyrie Irving on social media and throughout the press. But what is going on with this organization? We did hear that they were going to probably sign Udoka, and then all of a sudden this whole Kyrie Irving thing just completely backfired on Sean Marks, and they decided to part ways with Udoka. I'm not surprised. I don't think Ime Udoka will ever get a job in the NBA again. But I think the Nets were very, very smart. They've decided to kind of step away from that. And then they hired Jacque Vaughn. I remember Jacque Vaughn on the Orlando Magic. I remember Jacque Vaughn as an NBA player. Point guard, wasn't very good. I don't think he was the right fit for this Brooklyn Net team. There are so many different other coaches that are available right now. I don't understand why they're going after a guy like Jacque Vaughn. That doesn't mean Jacque Vaughn won't work out with the Brooklyn Nets. But when you have personalities like Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, and even Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving is going nowhere. I don't know if he's playing anymore this season. I believe he will because the Nets plan to make the playoffs. They plan to make a run. And the only way they plan to win anything is if they have Kyrie Irving in that lineup. But right now, the Nets don't need him because they're winning without him. But if they have plans to move forward and beat the best of the best, the Celtics, the 76ers when they get healthy, when Harden comes back, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Miami Heat, the Cleveland Cavaliers too. The only way they're going to beat those teams is if they're at full strength. So is Jacque Vaughn the right guy for the job? And if I was a Net fan, I wouldn't be excited for that. Now, Ime Udoka went to the NBA Finals, but after this catastrophe that happened in the offseason, you don't bring somebody in when it's hot, you don't make it hotter. So I think the Nets got it right on that term. But you bring in Jacque Vaughn. It just doesn't make sense. I understand they're trying to win. I understand they're trying to bring in a guy that will fit this organization with these personalities. Is Jacque Vaughn the guy for the job?
I don't think so. I just think they're stuck right now. The Nets are just in such a bad state of dysfunction that their best chance of getting a quality coach, at least a head coach, not a person, was Udoka, and that's what they backed off on to avoid a PR nightmare. I don't think any legitimate NBA coaches want to inherit overpaid Ben Simmons that can't score double-digit points in a game, drama queen Kyrie Irving, and another one in Kevin Durant. So they end up going with a guy that was in the interim when Kenny Atkinson first got fired, surprisingly, 3 years ago, and did all right. And I think that's what they're trusting there, a guy that at least has worked with those players.
It's selfish. It really pushes this team under the rug because if this team doesn't win this year, who's going to want this job? Because Kevin Durant's there for 4 more years. Kyrie Irving's probably going to be gone at the end of the year. So more than likely, Kevin Durant is in the offseason going to be asking for another trade. So the Nets might have to part ways with him, and all they're going to have is Ben Simmons.
It's laughable. They didn't really have a choice. Udoka was their choice. The PR backlash was coming out. The guy went to the NBA Finals last year, and the Celtics were just like, you guys can have him. We don't even want any compensation back for it. That alone speaks volumes in itself. Vaughn, it seems like they're playing well for him. They're playing hard for him. I don't know what Jacque Vaughn is. I don't know if he's capable of being the head coach. Are the Nets winning a championship this year? No. Are they winning one next year? I don't think so either. Kevin Durant's probably going to want another trade again. This whole Kyrie Irving thing, and now apparently he met with Adam Silver. Supposedly he could be back as soon as Sunday, and he's going to put a Net uniform back on again, and everything's going to try to be all hunky-dory with them like nothing ever happened. And I can't fault Jacque Vaughn for this. I mean, he was put in this spot. He said it during his press conference the other day, hey, if you're the second or third choice, if you get the job, it is what it is. He said the story about his wife. He said to his wife he was probably second or third choice for her too, and he wound up marrying her.
Did you see what Adam Silver said?
Fine,
he said that Kyrie Irving's not anti-Semitic. How could you say Kyrie Irving is not anti-Semitic for what he has come out and said? This is coming from a Jewish commissioner, and now all of a sudden makes himself look bad. I disagree with Adam Silver, and the fact that Kyrie Irving is going to be back as good as Sunday, it makes absolutely no sense. Maybe some of these owners, some of these Jewish owners should come out and speak up. This guy should not be playing right now. And by the way, LeBron James coming out commenting about Kyrie Irving's punishment and saying that it's too harsh. I've been waiting for LeBron James and Chris Paul, who runs the Players Union, to open up their mouths. And I think Chris Paul is a little bit smarter than we think he is. He knows Kyrie Irving's an idiot. He doesn't want to speak for him. In his eyes, he's probably just saying, I'm going to duck under the table and hope nobody asks me any questions because I don't want to answer them. But you knew because LeBron James has a relationship with Kyrie Irving, he was going to open his big mouth. And he finally did a week after this whole story came out. And you know why he did it? Because he doesn't want the backlash. It was so hot and steamy last week. Everybody was taking shots at Kyrie Irving. Stephen A. Smith, Chris Russo, Skip Bayless. Nobody wanted to get involved or speak up for Kyrie Irving. Now all of a sudden, it's getting cooler. Now LeBron James opens his big mouth, and you would think that he would stick up for what Kyrie Irving shouldn't have said. Speaking about a film that was anti-Semitic and attacking a culture that shouldn't be attacked, especially when there was 6 million people that died in the Holocaust. But no, LeBron James opens his big mouth and says to the NBA and to the Brooklyn Nets that it was too harsh, that he shouldn't have been suspended for 5 games. He should have been suspended for either 1 game or just fined. This is the same LeBron James that opened his big mouth when people were taking shots at China. You know why? Because he's a star in China. His companies and his brand is selling like a wildfire over there. How about his backing up of Black Lives Matter? We all did. I agree with every single thing the athlete said when all this stuff was going on almost 2 years ago. All the terrible things that were going on around the world. But now it's time to speak up for a culture that shouldn't have been attacked. I have Jewish blood in me. Josh, you have Jewish blood in you. It doesn't make any sense how LeBron James doesn't think he wasn't taking shots anti-Semitically to a culture that shouldn't be attacked. We are all built the same way. It doesn't matter what color, religion, or anything you believe in is, because God built us the same way. And I'm not getting into politics on this show. LeBron James, you stand up for all your beliefs. How come you're not standing up for the Jewish people? How come Adam Silver, his own people, how come he doesn't stand up for what he heard Kyrie Irving say? Did anybody see Kyrie Irving back down? He didn't. And then all of a sudden he didn't want to apologize. So you know what? The Nets suspended him indefinitely. And what happens after that? Now all of a sudden Adam Silver sits with him. It's all fine and good. He can come back and play. He should have been fined $1 million. And he should have been suspended for 10 to 20 games. And he should have to sit with different Jewish organizations and try to help out all the things that need to be helped out because of all this that's going on in the world. But we're not going to see that because Adam Silver and the NBA is shaking this off. It's not important to them. And I think it's ridiculous. And I know LeBron James doesn't agree with Kyrie Irving. He never agreed with Kyrie Irving, ever. When he played with him, with the Cleveland Cavaliers when they won the championship, how many times did we hear Kyrie Irving speak out after he went to the Celtics and said, I didn't know what it was like to be the guy on a team. And now I know, and I respect LeBron James even more because now I'm playing on a team where they're depending on me more than I believe I could give them. Then he goes over there with Kevin Durant and you see that debacle. I don't understand the NBA. I don't understand this whole situation. We all need to come together. It doesn't matter what you look like, what you believe in. Sports brings us together. We all watch sports. Why? We love the competition. It gets us away from our lives, our families, of the craziness with our jobs. All I want is the players to respect all the cultures. And that's the problem with the commissioners in professional sports. They all see it going on and they don't speak for everyone. And if the NBA doesn't see it, the NFL doesn't see it, the NHL doesn't see it, everybody should respect everybody's culture. And that's where Kyrie Irving didn't see it. And that's why Kyrie Irving is a selfish, good for nothing. I'm disgusted with Kyrie Irving. The NBA should be disgusted with him and all the ownership and all the people around the world that watch the sport and respect the sport as much as all of us do should look at this and completely wash our hands with that guy, including his jerseys, because it's not worth putting any money in that guy's pocket when he doesn't care about everything that's going on in the world. New York hockey's been pretty good. For the Islanders, it has been. How many comebacks? They've been fantastic. Sorokin, even Varlamov, pulling off that win against the New York Rangers in Madison Square Garden. It's been fun to watch. They did lose against Phoenix the other day. Tonight's game was fun to watch. They're high-flying, and they could score goals. I believe they have the best goalie in the league in Sorokin. This team is firing on all cylinders. And by the way, their defense is as good as anybody thought they were going to be under Lambert. I think Lambert has won his team over. Now, Barry Trotz, I believe, is one of the great coaches we've seen in the NHL in a very, very long time. And right now, he's sitting and he's relaxing. And he's still making his money. The Islanders are still paying him. But they didn't make a mistake with this guy, Lambert. He's a little bit younger. He has this team playing offensively and defensively. I don't see anything wrong with this, what this team is playing. Now, Lou Lamoriello did strike out in the offseason. He did. He didn't find that offensive player with Barzell. has it really shown. Now, Barzell doesn't have any goals. He's still, amongst the league's best in assists? He's amongst the league in points. He has not one goal, 15 assists.
Yep.
It's been unbelievable. And it's not about goals. It's all about getting the points and getting his team involved. This is a guy that just got an 8-year, $76 million contract. He is their superstar. If the Islanders can find another player to play with him, take the pressure off of him, this kid is as good as any player in the NHL right now. Speed, ability, puck handling skills. He's fun to watch, and this team is fun to watch. Anders Lee right now is amongst the league's best in goals and points. Brock Nelson is getting hot again. I mean, this is a fun team, Speedy. It really is.
And Matthew Barzal doesn't really have to do any of that if everyone else keeps scoring goals until really somebody else stops them on a consistent basis. The Islanders have done a much better job with pace and spacing this year, and a lot of that has to do with Lane Lambert. Barry Trotz's system was more old school. They were a very slow team when it came to skating, when it came to the passing the puck. They were strategic, and they were smart, but they weren't really fast, and now they've seen it a lot with Lambert. But also, the Islanders have still not done a lot of the things they did well with in the past, though, either. They're still scoring a lot of the tough goals, like you were saying with Anders Lee. He's very good with that kind of thing. Brock Nelson's always been good with that kind of thing. And their defense is still fantastic. Ilya Sorokin is fantastic. And it's a good sign for the Islanders, what they're doing late in games, too. For a young team to be this confident, how they play in the third period is a very good sign for a lot of those young players, especially for the defensemen.
It's just fun to watch. And if you're an Islander fan, if you're a Ranger fan, now the Rangers have been back and forth. And Shesterkin is not the same goalie he was last year. He's not. But that doesn't take away how talented he is. He will figure things out. He can't be as talented as he was last year and not be the same player he is this year. But we've seen this before. Sometimes goaltenders get into these little slumps and needed to figure things out. But the Rangers are too talented not to make the playoffs this year. Even with the game that Fox had where they won 8-2 the other day and he had 1 goal and 3 assists. He had his best game. He will figure things out. He's too good not to figure things out. I've been telling everybody, and I'll go back to this whole Kreider thing. When Kreider scored 50 goals last year, they should trade him in the offseason. He is at his highest right now. Trade him at his highest. Get as much as you can for him. They didn't do that, and now you're going into this season. He's not scoring goals like he did last year. He's having problems offensively. So that's been the problem for the New York Rangers, is their first line isn't scoring like it was last year. Panarin has played well. I like what Panarin is doing. Zibanejad has been pretty good. So everybody else, they're on, they're off. They're on, they're off. That's going to be the problem. They have to be more consistent. I know it's early in the season, but they have to be more consistent.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the experimentation with the younger players. We've talked about it at the beginning of the season. The rumors of them breaking up the kid line for what they did in the playoffs. And so far, Capo Caco has been the best when it came to playing with that first line with Panarin and Zibanejad. And sometimes we've seen Kreider and Zibanejad mix it up with Panarin on the second line and made it work. And Gallant's still trying to figure that kind of thing out with the younger players. But I think the spacing and the chemistry has still been good. And yeah, it hasn't produced massive point totals yet for those guys. Lafreniere is 7, Caco is 6 right now. But I think it'll definitely be able to be a work in progress to get in later in the season. Filipino just came back. He has 6 points on the year. Is off to a good start. The defense is what I'm a little more concerned with, it because the veterans have still had their issues. Now, Fox offensively has been great. Already has 16 points. But defensively, it's not really his speed. It's more his awareness that I think has been a little off this year. Keandre Miller had a hot start to the year, but has made some mistakes recently as well. And the injury to Ryan Lindgren, I think, has really hindered his game, too, for what he was last season, where he was one of the few defensemen in the league with 100-plus hits and blocks. That's a big difference for Adam Fox, who's also struggling defensively, too, and relied a lot on Lindgren to help him out as well. And the forwards defensively, too, have been a little bit iffy as well, which was an issue for the Rangers against Tampa in the playoffs. So they got to find that groove again, too, if they want to get back to
the
form.
secret for the Rangers is Shesterkin getting hot again. If he can get hot again, which I believe he will, they'll start going on 5-6 game winning streaks. I expect the Rangers to be competitive and get into the playoffs either as a wild card team. I didn't think they were a top 2 team. I said they weren't a top 2 team. And a lot of people put the Islanders down this year, that they weren't good enough. This is the same Islander team that last year were the favorites of winning the Stanley Cup in a lot of people's eyes. This year, I think they made that team a little bit more younger. They added Romanoff and all those other pieces that they brought in the offseason and signed. I think the Islanders are one player away from being a contender. They need another offensive piece. If they can get an offensive piece to play with Barzal at the trade deadline, watch out for the New York Islanders. They have the goaltending. They have the defense. They just need that other goal scorer to help out the pressure and take the pressure off of some of those lines that the Islanders sometimes fall like they were against Phoenix. How do you lose against Phoenix on your home ice? You're losing 1-0, and then you give up the empty goal. They didn't score in that game, and that's a big problem. You cannot go in these games and not be able to put the puck in the net.